Good day, everyone. Our group will have a discussion on the review on the life history strategies of grass or the Poaceae family. First, we shall discuss the evolutionary history, which shall entail the evolutionary subgroups and the evolutionary traits that were used by the Poaceae family. Grasses emerged as a separate taxonomic category in the late Cretaceous or early Tertiary periods. While the precise taxonomic relationships of Poaceae are unknown, the closest extant relatives are likely to be in the Joinvilleaceae, Flagellariaceae, or Restrenaceae. Taxonomic evidences and cladistic analysis support the division of Poaceae into three evolutionary subgroups. These groups are the Bambusoideae, the Panicoideae, the Arundinoideae, Floridoideae, and the Poideae. The Bambusoideae among the three retain the greatest collection of primitive characters and are considered the ancestral grouping by most authorities. The Bambusoideae are thought to have originated in tropical forest edge habitats, suggesting that Poaceae as a whole probably evolved from tropical forest edge species. From the presumptive forest edge origin, grasses evolved along three different developmental trajectories, each adapted to a different general habitat type. The bambusoids evolved to become tropical forest inhabitants. The panicoids or arindonoids and the chloridoids occupied savannas and warm prairies, and the poids adapted to cold temperate habitats. The grasses have adapted most successfully to open habitats, particularly habitats impacted by grazing, fire, and drought. Diverse set of evolutionary traits have been identified that help the success of the grass family or the Poaceae family. These evolutionary traits are linked to dispersal, establishment, success, and the ecological competitiveness. Enhanced long-distance dispersal is determined by anemochory or the dispersal of seed spores or fruit by wind, epizoochory or the seed dispersal via transport on the outside of animals, and the endozoochory or the dispersal via ingestion by vertebrate animals, especially birds. And this is facilitated via the spikelet, especially the on lemma, which functions as the main dispersal unit. Establishment success could be a consequence of the precocious embryo and large starch reserves, which may underpin the extremely short generation times grasses. Post-establishment genetic bottlenecks or the occurrence when a population is greatly reduced in size may be mitigated by wind, pollination, and the widespread occurrence of polyploidy in combination with gametic self-incompatibility. The ecological competitiveness of grasses is also corroborated by their dominance across the range of environmental extremes tolerated by angiosperms. It is facilitated by both C3 and C4 photosynthesis, well-developed frost tolerance in several clades, and a sympodial growth form that enable the evolution of both annual and long-lived life forms. Finally, the absence of wood except in bamboos, and the presence of persistent buds at or below the ground level provides tolerance to repeated defoliation, whether by fire, frost, drought, or herbivores.
The phenology and the fundamental development of grasses. Take this in mind that grasses are broadly classified as summer annuals, winter annuals, or perennials. There are no biennial grasses. The intended use dictates which group is most suitable for a given situation. The principal stages of grass life are the following. The first one is the vegetative stage. In vegetative stage, germination starts and continues through tillering. Tillers are shoots that grow from the base of grass plants. The tillering is a physiological process of continual underground branching of primary shoot compact node joints. Meristems are occupied to produce leaves in this stage. This is significant because adequate leaf surface area is required to capture sunlight and maintain photosynthesis. The next The next stage is the transition stage. A juvenile plant is unresponsive to environmental variables that stimulate flowering until it matures. It is in this phase that grasses are most vulnerable to grazing. Leaf sheaths and culm internodes continue to elongate during the transition period, elevating the meristematic tissue to grazable height. Grasses differ in time of internode elongation and the location of plant's growth point. Because certain species keep their growth point at or near ground level, they are resistant to close continual grazing. Lastly, the last stage is the reproduction stage. The reproductive phase begins with the appearance of flag leaf that encloses the inflorescence. This is where growth is completed. The extended stem bears a seed head. New growth must emerge from dormant buds, and the development proceeds through the boot stage, seed head emergence, antithesis, or the pollen of the release of pollen, and lastly the seeds.
So as for the evolutionary diversification, floral and reproductive evolution as well as the adaptation of grasses will be discussed. So shown in this table is the comparison between primitive and modern florets as they undergo floral reduction, which mark their evolution. So in here, primitive florets are characterized by insect pollination, but they transitioned into wind pollination as the modern florets evolved. The stamens are reduced from 6 to 3, the stigmas are reduced from 3 to 2, and the tree locules located in the single-chambered ovary of primitive florets are also reduced from 3 to 2 in the modern florets. Now, this reduction contributed to the adaptation of these grass florets as it gave them less energy expenditure during pollination since attractants are not needed in wind-pollinated plants. The substantial energy that is saved is then used for their maintenance and also for their survival functions. However, floral reduction also contributed problems such as making small flowers a difficult target for windborne pollen. So to compensate, the grass inflorescence continued to develop to increase the opportunity for windborne pollen grains to encounter a receptive stigma, since a larger total cross-sectional area can be attributed to an inflorescence. We can see here in the picture the structures of a grass inflorescence. So inside the floret, there are lodicules which represent the modification of petals, and there is also apalea and a lemma which are modifications of sepals. So a similar compensation might be also seen in reproductive evolution, in which there is a strong development of vegetative propagation within the family. So vegetative propagation is a form of asexual reproduction in grasses where pillars arises from adventitious buds on nodes, rhizomes, and stolons. There is also a strong development in pleistogamic species, which is characterized by self-pollination prior to or in place of flower opening, and also in apomictic species in which there is a parthenogenic development of an unfertilized embryo. So parthenogenic means that asexual reproduction is used without fertilization. So coevolution of grasses and grazing vertebrate herbivores is also an important factor in grass evolution. So fossil records show that about 60 million years ago in the Eocene period, the grasslands and the Hypsilon had their first appearance, which initiated grass evolution. So since that time, grasses evolved basal and intercalary meristems, hardened lemma and palea, as mentioned earlier, the structures, to protect the ingested seed, and also a rhizomatous trampling resistant salt and defensive secondary metabolites such as tannins and alkaloids. So these adaptations allowed equines or horse-like mammals to utilize grasses as a food source and grasses to flourish under a grazing system that suppressed other plant species.
Next is fire adaptations. Way before vertebrate grazers appeared, fire was a factor in grass evolution. As story competitors are divided by fires, it benefits grasses as there are more light and nutrients available for them to obtain. In support of that statement, it was found out that the annual production of grass litter increases the rate of grassland fires, which results to a decrease in overall fuel load and the maximum temperature of a grassland burn. Basal grass meristems and subterranean grass roots and rhizomes are less likely to be affected by cooler burning fire, which allows the grass to proliferate rapidly after a fire, wherein they will occupy an area and recycle nutrients before other competitors start to sprout. The next is drought adaptations. Grassland regions in Africa, South America, and North America shifted from having a warm and humid climate towards a cooler and semi-arid climate. This occurred between 25 to 60 million years ago. The shift in climate is believed to have influenced grass evolution. Grasses adopted an extensive network of highly ramified roots which allows them to efficiently scavenge moisture from the soil. They also evolved the C4 carbon fixation pathway. The C4 photosynthesis is an adaptation of the C3 pathway that overcomes the limitation of the photorespiration, improving photosynthetic efficiency and minimizing the water loss in hot, dry environments. It was considered as one of the key adaptations that allowed Poaceae to conquer dry savannas and open tropical plains. And lastly, polyploidy. It is a phenomenon wherein there are more than two complete sets of chromosomes in a cell nucleus. It occurs more often in Poaceae compared to any other angiosperm family. numbering an estimated 80% of grass species undergoing a ploidy change in their evolution. However, the ploidy change varies among different genera of grasses. Polyploidy occurs due to sexually functional non-reduced gametes, and for that to happen, homologous chromosome pairs fail to separate during the final step of gamete formation. Therefore, the gametes carry a double complement of chromosomes. It was once thought that the presence of a ploidy change was correlated to having a greater resistance to extreme temperatures or drought, or an improvement in colonizing new habitats. However, it is now certain that the effects of a ploidy change is less conspicuous, and not every polyploids are competitively superior. This phenomenon alone does not mean an ensured increase in fitness. However, when accompanied by mutations and hybridization events or the genetic reconfiguration that comes after a ploidy change, thus the Poaceae becomes more fit to survive. This marks the end of our presentation. Thank you.